Okay, welcome everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Coach Stephen.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you. Although you've been in the new year longer than I have by quite quite a lot. So yes, it's exciting, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's I can't believe it's 2026. I can't believe, I mean, again, I'm ahead in time, but it's Friday night, January 2nd already. It's
Mm,
crazy.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So,
Friday morning here, January the 2nd, 2026. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like we're already 2 days into it. It's like I'd like it to slow down. I want to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, because
Yeah.
it just means that another birthday is getting closer as well. So yeah. Um, so Lorraine, welcome from Warwick in Queensland.
hmm
We've got Anne coming in from Western Australia. Okay, nice.
Good day.
Phil Greeley.
Yeah.
Yeah, good day. Happy New Year, says Phil. Yep, Happy New Year, Phil.
Mhm.
Um, we've got Zeus coming. Good morning from Ireland. Is that the Irish flag? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do we got? Happy World Carnivore Month too. Yeah, that's a good point. Happy World
Yeah.
Carnivore Month.
We need to make a
Y-
note of that.
Yeah.
World Carnival Month. Yes.
Bacon Girl from Virginia, and Scott's coming in from California. Uh, Maury Glisson from the Eastern US. Richard, how you doing? And we've got Laney from the Sunshine Coast. How you doing, Laney? And we've got SJ coming in from Germany. Chris from Cheshire. Is that pronounced right? Cheshire, is that
Yeah,
right?
Cheshire.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Susan, how you
Skip.
doing?
Yeah. Aging is a privilege to denied to many. Thrive on friends. I like that
True.
little message. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Um,
The
Comic
thing about
Cons.
the thing about getting old is it beats the alternative.
True, very true. Yeah. Robin, how you doing? Happy New Year. And Don's here from Florida. Thank you so much, guys. And we got 45 people in already. That's fantastic. Um,
Excellent.
do us a big favor, whoever's channel you're on, please smash the like button. That'll encourage YouTube to kind of push this out to more people. We get more people in, better discussion for everyone. Um, and if you have any questions, put a Q in front of it. Anything you'd like us to discuss, please put a Q in front of it. And that reminds me, I do have a few questions from last time that I can flash up as well, which I'll do. Um, how you doing, Grounded? And we've got Karen coming in from Derbyshire.
That's where I
Uh,
am. We haven't got
ooh.
we've got frost. We haven't got snow, but we've got frost.
Oh, we had snow today
Oh, cool.
for 5 minutes. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It's never a big event here because it's too warm, I
Hmm.
guess. Oak Hearts from Yeovil, and we got. Ooh, I can't even click on these. We've got. Naomi, how you doing?
Mhm.
Good to see you in from New South Wales. Um, and get those thumbs up. Yes, thank you. Grounded from the north of the UK. And Susan, thank you very much for that super chat. That's very kind of you. Appreciate it. If you have any questions or discussion points, please put them in, and we'll get to them.
Mhm.
Very much appreciated. Zoe, hey, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Um,
Wow.
Happy New Year. Um, cheers,
Lot.
Naomi. And we got Lavon in from Nova Scotia, Canada.
Mhm.
Yeah, so thank you very much, guys, for coming in. We got 64 people in already. And Coach Stephen, we had a question from last time. Wonder if you've got any thoughts on this one from Phil Greeley. I'm just going to put it into the chat and then show it on screen. So if your CAC score is 0, how much concern should we have for soft plaques and their possible ruptures? Is soft plaque a problem with a CAC of 0?
Well, yes. Phil, that's a good question to start with. My CAC score, let's put this in perspective. Coronary artery calcium score, which is looking at hard calcium, basically, in the arteries, which is protecting you from having problems. It's nature's stent. So mine was 639 11 years ago, and it's protective. And the soft plaque is the one that people worry about because it could potentially, cause, a cap or a what's the word? What's the word? I can't think of the word. Anyway, yes, a thrombus event. Basically, you've got something on your artery, and it could potentially cause you a bit of a clotting problem, and therefore you will have potentially a heart issue. But in saying that, many do. Yes, it is more dangerous. I mean, that's the thing. It's not calcified, so it's not set. That's the word I'm looking for, and it's not detected by CAC scores. So coronary artery calcium scores, basically look at calcified plaque, as the name implies. So you do a CT angiogram for the soft plaque, and it's potentially more dangerous, which is what most people would think. So yeah, a CTA scan is going to be better. So it hasn't calcified, and that's your problem. There's not really that much to say about it. I mean, it is, as the name implies, it's soft plaque. There's some sounds coming through in my headphones. Is that a bit of music or something?
It might be on my side. My phone was vibrating.
Ah, right. Now that explains why I'm all over the place, because I'm thinking, what's going on here? Right. Okay. So let's do it. So that type of plaque, the non-calcified, is less stable, and that's the thing. So the posh way would be to say it's metabolically active, I suppose, and prone to that rupture, which is what I was saying about the thrombosis. And that can trigger a blood clot and all that sort of thing. I suppose it's very close to my heart, no pun intended, because recently there was Lane Norton saying, "Oh, if your CAC is about 700, you're imminent for a heart attack." Well, mine was 11 years ago. My good friend Coach Raymond Nazon is over 700, so that's rubbish. There are people in their thousands, that don't have a heart attack. So it's not an exact science. Is I think the point I'm trying to make. Those numbers are indicative of what's going on in the body, but it doesn't mean that you're definitely going to have a heart attack, definitely not going to have a heart attack or die from a heart-related issue. But they're just numbers. They're an indication. And if you have got some soft plaque, then that is potentially more dangerous than anything else, in comparison in these tests. But if you've got a CAC score of 0, I suppose to get to the nub of the question, it's probably likely that you haven't got as much soft plaque as, say, for instance, someone like myself at 639.
So, given that, for most people, would it be better to get a CT angiogram rather than a CAC score?
Yeah, absolutely. If you really want to know, I'd get both. Simple as that. I mean, that's what the Dave Feldman, Nick Norwitz study did. It was CAC and CTAs. And I think, I mean, it makes sense to do, a belt and braces, because why would you not? If you're there and you're being looked at, why not get that done as well? But how you look and feel, how you're breathing, how you're sleeping, energy, dizziness, balance, all of those things, how you clinically present is the most important thing. My stepfather recently very recently on Christmas Day, I was thinking, oh, wow, he's really good, because he had a heart event after a medical intervention that was forced on him a few years ago. And, he had just a basic checkup. Now, on Christmas Day, when we saw him, he was fantastic, 83, but then literally saying that he's the best he's been. And he went in for a checkup, and they was like, oh, you've got to come on the ward. So he's been more ill since they worried him than when he didn't have all those interventions. So, so if you're looking at the numbers, I just looked them up for Phil, by the way. The soft plaque, you can have soft plaque is found in approximately 4% of people with a CAC of 0. So
so it's quite low.
Yeah, it's very, very small. Some studies found a much higher percentage. I've got one of my Substacks up, by the way. Couldn't remember the figures off the top of my head. So studies found a much higher percentage, especially among those with cardiac risk factors. One cited 70% of certain high-risk groups showed non-calcified plaque despite a CAC of 0. So if you've got other problems, then that puts the number up. If you have, hypertension, if you have type 2 diabetes, those sort of things, then it's likely that you're going to have more soft plaque. But I think that's more, you see, you need to go one step further, even though that's how I wrote it in the Substack, which I did later on in the article. You've probably got those things because of the way you're eating. So,
right.
The numbers are not the things that are generating the problems.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah.
So if you have a CAC of 0, this is the other thing I wrote, your short to medium term risk of major cardiac events is very low, 0.3%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'm just thinking, like even if you get a low number, the doctor will almost instantly be trying to put you on statins, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and despite the low risk, and despite also the not much useful risk reduction of statins.
Yes.
So on CAC, I'm just trying to copy this out of my the image that I took from last time.
Oh, okay.
So it takes a
You're
little
very
bit longer
organised.
for the
Do you want me to chat a bit while you do it?
Oh, I've got one here.
I've got one here. All right.
I've got to add a word to the end of it because it didn't copy out. Okay. So this is also a CAC one. This was from Mr. Beaumont. Is CAC score the only way to know how many atherosclerotic lesions, plaques you have, and how is this test done mechanistically?
What, the CAC or the other tests? What would he be asking there?
I think he's referring to. Oh, okay. And how? Actually, reading it a second time, the second part of the question seems to maybe be talking about the
CAC.
I think the CAC.
Oh, well, let's do. Well, mechanically, calcium looks looks white on the scan. It's as simple as that. And then, because you can then measure, the brightness of certain places and how luminous it is, how white it is, I suppose. Then you can get an idea of how much calcium is in the arteries. So they look at all the descending and ascending arteries, and they do like a slice through, and then there'll be a white speck, and as they go through the slice, the white speck gets bigger and bigger, and then it gets smaller and smaller. Sound a bit like Carl Sagan and Flatland here, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's a really interesting thing where we talk about 4-dimensional space, 3-dimensional. Anyway, right. So the CAC scan is like slices, and obviously if there's a large amount of calcium and it's very dense, and it'd be very white, and there'll be a lot of it rather than a small speck. So that would be how the CAC works. you can definitely do, like I say, the CT angiogram that
Mm.
works. Carotid ultrasound, which looks at the arterial wall thickness, which I think most people
Mm.
know about. There is more nuanced things you can do, and an IVUS, which is an intravascular ultrasound.
Mm.
You can do optical coherence tomography. There's loads of different tests you can do, but the CAC and the CTA are the main ones. I suppose, for a layman's point of view, it's like the CAC is like the lime scale index, how much calcification. A bit like when
Mm.
you look at your tap, it gets calcified if you haven't got a water softener, for instance. So, yeah, it it's a good test because it's non-invasive, and it is that with the CTA is like the gold standard, really. So,
Yeah. Um, I was listening to a video once by Ford Brewer.
oh yeah, I
Um,
know, yeah.
and one of the things he was talking about was how, like, the least invasive thing you could do is you mentioned the carotid artery ultrasound. And
Yeah.
he was saying that can be good, like when you're comparing, like if you have one, I don't know, once every year or something like that, and then you compare them together, that gives you a good idea of if there's plaque growing. But I couldn't understand if that would be relevant for the arteries around your heart. Like, do they kind of grow at the same time or the same rate of growth, or
Well, no, it's
the plaques are independent of each other?
yeah. Yes. Basically, what you're looking at is this: they grow in predictable places, so they're never in the veins, but always in arteries. So that's the first thing. Even though the vascular tree is all connected and all joined up, and it's still got the same amount of LDL and HDL and all that going through it. So, but the venous side is about 10% of the pressure, and it never has plaque buildup. So the first thing is, right, okay, so we know high pressure is one of the problematic things that happens in the body.
Mm.
And then the next thing is, even in the arterial side, it's not in all the arteries, it's in predictable sites within the artery. So normally where there's a bifurcation, where it splits into two, or where there is a loop, and you get not only the high pressure, you then get the blood flow is not laminar, but it's turbulent. And then there can be some injury there. So if you look at your coronary arteries, ascending, descending, left or right, they would still be individual to you, a bit like a fingerprint. So it might be on one person, the left ascending, it might be the right descending. So it does depend on how your arteries have developed. You remember the arteries of the heart are the same as the arteries everywhere else, really. But obviously they're supplying the heart, the blood there. So if you have any injury, could be huge exertion or something that you've done where you've overtrained or something, and there's a slight tear, then the calcium will go there as a repair mechanism.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So we sort of know the answer is yes, we couldn't be precise, but there's a sort of rough idea why that where it's going to be roughly, which is why you do
Right.
a CAC score,
Right.
because we know it's going to possibly be in the arteries around the heart,
Right.
but it could be elsewhere as
Cheers.
well. But
Yeah.
it's unlikely to be, in the arteries in the legs. That's unusual.
Right. From Josephine, knowing another year of info, what three things have you noticed that's changed for you two? Hope that made sense. No, okay. So, having learnt another year of information over 2025, what three things have you noticed that's changed for you two? Hope that made sense.
Oh,
Um,
you're asking me, or do you want to go
uh,
first?
I'll go first. Yeah.
Mhm.
What three things have I noticed? Um, you can't change people. That's just become kind of more deeply embedded thing. I know, I guess. Yeah, you can't change people. The more you nag them, the more they're going to resist. Um, what else? 3 things. Okay, so stop nagging people. Um, as like just keep yourself happy. No point trying to make everyone else happy, because you'll exert all your time trying to make people happy, and then they'll still come and be angry with you. So there's no point. So don't nag, don't try and make other people happy, and make sure you wear clothes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I've learned other than those two. Yeah. How about you, Stephen?
What 3 things have you noticed that's changed for you too? Right. So 3 things. In the last year, I've noticed that many people are changing terminology to fit their agenda, and you need to look beyond how people talk. So, for instance, the word stress in front of a stress hormone, makes it sound different to just being a hormone. All hormones have a function. So I'm a little bit fed up with influencers using emotive words to describe something to get their point across. And I'm not going to have it, and I'm constantly fight against that, because now it's glucagon is a stress hormone. No, it's not. It's a hormone that puts your blood glucose up, or then there's less of it, it keeps it down. So that's the first thing. I won't be bothered about getting into trying to clickbait people and use emotive language. I'm just going to use physiology, but very basically, and fight against people that do add these emotive words inappropriately. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's not always about diet. I think that's the biggest thing, actually. We should have put that first, I suppose. But many people immediately blame diet for things that aren't diet related. So they might say, I'm not sleeping. It's ever since I've been carnivore. And then you say, anything else happening in your life? Oh, yes. My son was in a fight. My dog was attacked. My wife's leaving me, or for those sort of things. Staying up late, watching the TV, drinking too much coffee, all those things. That's not diet, that's lifestyle. And I think it's underestimated. So we need to look at that. And I think also you've got to just keep repeating the same information. I like to try and bring new information to people. So it's not a case of, oh, he's going to say insulin, oh, he's going to say kale is bad, or whatever. But also some of the basic messages still need to go out. You need to say it all the time, because you're fighting a huge tsunami of vested interests that are pumping out misinformation. So we need to fight that. So keep going over the basics. Keep going over the basics.
Yeah, that's they're really important ones. So Maxine, any thoughts on what causes nodules on the thyroid?
Okay, go on.
Oh
Sorry.
no, I was going to say I've got no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, the biggest one is iodine deficiency. So you did know.
No, okay.
Yeah, you'll get goiters and you get nodules because your thyroid is really struggling to produce what it needs to produce. Most of them are benign, by the way. That's the thing. I think about 5%, 15% at the most are what's the word? Malignant. But normally they're benign. So iodine deficiency is one. As Cammy's just put in the chat, oxalates can cause the damage. Autoimmune conditions, you could have a genetic predisposition, which is what they'll say, but I'm always skeptical of that, because I still think you eat what your parents ate. You tend to be a product of the people that bring you into this world. So I think genetics, it's probably more epigenetics. You can get obviously you can get cancers and stuff like that, but then we got to ask what is the cause of cancer. So those would be the main things. Iodine deficiency would be the biggest one for me, and I think autoimmune would be second. And I think that's down to glycans and the fact that there's glycosylated proteins in the human body, which are mammal versions, and then there's which are called glycans, and then there's in plants and in fungi, and they're different. And I think if you're ingesting these proteins, these glycans, which are not mammal ones, that could be what's driving autoimmune conditions. Big subject, really. But anyway, if you give your body the tools it needs and the nutrients it needs, then you won't get those nodules.
Thank you for your question, Maxine. Question from Zoe. Husband and I have been carnivore for 9 months. My ketones are usually around 1.8, but hubby only up to 0.5 once, usually below. He is struggling with anxiety and sleep. Is there a relation?
Well, yes. Firstly, your physiology is going to be different. Your height, your weight, your activity, your stress levels, you're different people. So your body is going to never be totally in sync. If you was, 24/7 eating exactly the same thing, doing exactly the same diet, and you was exactly the same height, you still might find there'd be variations for whatever reason. But if your ketones are normally around 1.8, that's probably pretty good. 9 months. He's struggling with anxiety and sleep, so that will make a big difference, because what you tend to find is your glucose levels will be a little bit higher in that situation. If your sleep is disturbed, it could be your circadian rhythms are messed up, like I just said, about temperature, about watching the TV, being triggered at night, coffee, all those sort of things. So your body will have probably more circulating glucose, and therefore the glucose ketone ratio is going to be a bit skewed.
Right. Is
So,
there
yes.
is there a level that it becomes like too high?
Not really. I mean, well, yes, there is, but that's only in type 1 diabetics who are struggling or don't take their insulin, and then they have very high blood glucose, and they also have very high ketones. But so that's an exceptional situation. So in the main, the body will will limit the production of ketones. You'll limit the production of ketones because of the substrate demand. So yeah, they never really get too high, but people can get a little bit over anxious in the level of ketones, because you then get into utilization of ketones. So what's in your blood is not what's in your tissue. So you could have,
Right.
That's the other thing. The husband, you've mentioned the anxiety and sleep. So my best guess is in that situation, it's low because there's a little bit more glucose being in there, and the body is just looking at energy supply and leveling it out. So if you've got 0.5 of this, then you probably need, whatever it is with glucose, the GKI index sort of thing. But you could have very low ketones because you're using them all. So people that are very fat adapted and been eating this way a long time, athletic, insulin sensitive, and all that stuff, you could be in ketosis, or you could be very ketogenic, but on your ketone meter see very low ketones. You could do that, but you'd also see low glucose. But that doesn't mean that your levels of energy are down. They're just more appropriate, and everything's being used and utilized with more sensitivity.
Thank you for your question, Zoe. Question here from Tanya. I am just coming back to carnivore again after approximately 4 months gap. Are there people that naturally struggle to lose weight and also gain it back really fast?
But naturally struggle to lose weight. And yes, absolutely. I mean, again, we're just talking about genetics and, more importantly, epigenetics. So some people are fast gainers, fast losers, and some people it does take a long time. There's too many variables in that question to be able to tell you exactly how to hack it so you become a fast gainer, fast loser. If it was that simple, if there was 3 or 4 golden rules that would make you lose weight in a very quick way, a healthy way, I should say, by the way, and to stop you gaining weight back fast, then everyone would know about it because it would be literally the golden ticket. But it's so difficult because life changes. You know, when people talk about, I've got 3 kids and they're all very different, but I'm the same parent. Well, you're not, because you might have one of the children 20 years ago, one 15 years ago, and one 10 years ago, and you would have been a different person. So you're a different person. You're a different parent. When you had your first kid, you were different because that was your first child. You're a different parent because you've got a second one. You think you know it all because you've already got one. And then you get your third one. You think, well, hang on a minute. So I'm using that as a strange example, but the life changes as well. So some people could be really good at losing weight until they're not. And that's a real common story. And they say, well, I'm still the same person. And I always say, well, are you? Because when you used to lose weight, what were you doing? And now what are you doing? And their life is completely different.
That kind of mirrors, you know, when you're in your early 20s and you're drinking all night, and then you can wake up after 1 hour's sleep, slam a can of Coke, and you're good for the rest of the day. You know, it's like that changes, right? Once you're in your 40s, there's no doing that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Tanya. Um, okay, from Anne. Um, Question: insulin resistance is usually built up in decades. It seems that this mechanism you describe, your Substack, could be easily switched back. So, if insulin resistance is a normal mechanism, why is it hard to reverse?
No, it isn't. I mean, this is the thing. It's firstly, insulin resistance is a misnomer because that isn't really what is happening. Your body cells have a certain requirement for energy, and anything over and above the energy that they require, they will lock out because the body is clever. And then us humans are really stupid, and we invent medications that override that mechanism, i.e., metformin. So every cell can run on fats or run on carbohydrates or any mixture of the two, but it knows exactly how much it needs because it has sensors. And there are sensors for the amount of substrate available, how much energy you're using at any moment, because adenosine triphosphate ATP, when that's starting to be used up, you end up with a bigger ratio of ATP compared to AMP, adenosine monophosphate, and the body picks that up and it can move transporters from inside the cell to the membrane and all this, right? So that's all the geeky sciencey bit, but you don't need to get into that. You just need to understand that if you're eating more energy than your cell requires, it's going to block it out. But people call that insulin resistant. Well, no, that's just sense, because if it wasn't blocking it out and just letting insulin allow glucose to enter the cell, then the cell would just swell and kill itself with an oversupply of energy that it can't deal with. So, yeah, I mean, I've had people that are type 2 diabetic, which is allegedly chronic and progressive and takes forever to manage, within 2 weeks off their diabetic medication because they're just eating the right amount. They're listening to the hunger and satiety signals, and therefore doing what comes naturally to animals in the wild, eating what is appropriate, not gorging, not pigging out, and all those sort of things. I'm currently doing an experiment where I'm using the Lumen breath tracker to look at my carb to fat burning. And before New Year's Eve, I got one of the top scores. I was 95% a fat burner. And then on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, I decided to eat carbs, and it just completely reversed it within 2 days. And I was about the worst you could be. I was a 95% carb burner, according to the Lumen, Lumen. And I'm now going to eat back to what I normally did and see how long it takes via my Lumen score, rather than doing bloods.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But I can tell you, I felt awful. Now, Anne might think, well, yeah, but you're fat adapted. That's why it's going to be quick. But I've had clients, loads and loads. I mean, one of the things is I've started this thing called the Common Sense Carnivore group, which hopefully I can send you a link to. And it's going to look at these things. Yes, we will have the science, and there'll be educational courses. Well, there are already, but there'll also be the common sense view of it as well, which is if you stop mixing carbohydrates in with your fats, you don't have a problem, because fat is so so filling, lets you know you're full very quick. It's very difficult to overeat. So it's just going back to nature. So
Mm.
insulin resistance, I mean, I use the terminology because people understand it, is a normal mechanism, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. So your body becomes physiologically resistant to the energy supply at certain points because it's trying to do something. So, for instance, when you're in fight or flight, which isn't cortisol, by the way, it's noradrenaline and adrenaline that does that, and that makes total sense because it's a nerve impulse much faster than a steroid hormone that gets in the body to react. If your body wants to put your blood glucose up, the last thing it needs is insulin to come along and say, well, forget what you're doing. I'm going to put it all in the cells. It doesn't make any sense. So there are points in time where your blood glucose needs to go up, and therefore your body will know from the signals that it's got from the nervous system, from the lateral grade column in your spine. Basically, your brain has said, we need to do this, and it will do it. And what would be the point of putting your blood glucose up to bring it straight back down? So we have that physiological, but that's again a normal mechanism, but it isn't a mechanism that we need every day. Overeating is the problem. It's not insulin resistance.
Yeah. And as you say, you can address that very simply by just making sure that you have a lot of saturated fat in your meal, right? Or enough saturated fat in a meal, and then you just don't feel hungry.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, but doesn't that make sense? If you eat too much, you stop, and your body says you're full. And you're protecting your. If you think of yourself as a cell, a living organism, which is what you are, there will be a point where you go, oh, I can't eat anymore. All right, yes, and for some people, the threshold might be higher, especially with carbohydrates, where we know from studies, I think the Minnesota prison study showed that people with carbohydrates can overeat by 10 times as much as people on fats and proteins.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. So can
that's
I,
my
absolutely.
life. That's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Pringles have got a slogan that alludes to that as well. So Phil Greeley is asking, how many hormones are there in human biology?
Right. Well, there's over 50. I mean, the reason I laugh is because when we talk about physiology, there's more we don't know than we do know. So there's over 50 that have been identified. And even then, people don't really talk about them in the right way. So you have peptide hormones, which is the base, of amino acids, and they need receptors to allow entry into the cell. And then you've got steroid hormones, where the base is cholesterol. So you've got things like testosterone, and they can diffuse through the cell membrane. And then you've got amino derived hormones, which is specifically T3 and T4, where people lump them in with steroid hormones because they do act on the nucleus once they're in the cell, but they still need the monocarboxylate transporters to get them into the cell. And the thyroid hormone is completely different to every other hormone because it needs something from the Earth's crust, iodine, basically, to be a structural part of the hormone. So we've got these three types of hormones. Like I say, the thyroid hormone is misrepresented as a steroid hormone, and that is a big part of the problem why people still can't get to the bottom of what's happening with their thyroid function, because the transporter that allows T3, T4 to get into the cell is upregulated by the presence of ketones. So that might be one of the reasons why when you go ketogenic, you get a better response from your thyroid. Maybe one of the reasons.
Interesting.
But I would say we're constantly learning that organs or structures in the body that we didn't think were secreting hormones are secreting messages all over the place. So I think maybe in 10 years' time, my answer would be over 100 hormones, but at the moment it's over 50.
So Scott is asking, I still struggle with sleep. Do our bodies make cortisol at night because I'm not eating carbs per se?
Um, right, the body makes cortisol all the time. There's granules of cortisol in abundance, absolutely everywhere, and depending on where you are in the day, the circadian rhythm is driven by light and dark exposure. That's one of the main regulators, which is why we're always talking about, having the TV on late at night, or your mobile device stuck in front of your face. You're doing all these things that don't let the melatonin settle down or be produced in abundance, because that's what drives it. Light literally drives it through your eye, your optic nerve. Then your optic nerve is either inhibiting or stimulating, depending on whether it's dark or light. And that goes again through your spinal column, and that will get to the superior cervical ganglion, which will send a message basically to your pineal gland to produce serotonin, which becomes melatonin, or inhibit it. So what's happening there is nothing to do with cortisol. Did you just see that? So that isn't directly being involved by all that, but on top of that, cortisol production is regulated running alongside that as a secondary sort of, not a secondary messenger, but it's a secondary system where by about 9 a.m. in the morning, you will have a peak of cortisol, and then you will have like a ski slope. So it's always present. Now, if you're not eating carbs, that really makes no difference to your light and dark exposure. But you're talking about your blood glucose. Well, your blood glucose management isn't really driven by cortisol either. That's driven by insulin and glucagon. So this is what I was talking about, influencers making things much more complicated than they really are, because cortisol is a circadian hormone. It's not a stress hormone. It does many things, of which one of those is help with actually the repair after a stressful event, rather than actually being the baddie in this. But if you're looking at your blood glucose management, you've got to look at insulin and you've got to look at glucagon. And because that's a physiology, and not just me, many people are saying to these other influencers that are talking about cortisol in the wrong way, they're now calling glucagon a stress hormone. Well, it's not a stress hormone. It's a blood glucose management hormone. It makes sure that you have the right amount of glucose in your blood at any one time, because your red blood cells, they need glucose, but they don't need dietary glucose. So if you're not eating carbs, you are still making the glucose that you need. If you're struggling with sleep, I would have a look at things like coffee or any sort of stimulant that you're doing. You could be overtraining, you could be under eating, your temperature of your room could be wrong. You could be going to bed at irregular times, which the body doesn't tend to like. It tends to enjoy you doing things at a regular time, go to bed at a regular time, get up at a regular time, which can be varied over the whole year, because it wants to be more in line with when the sun rises and the sun sets. If possible, you work around those. That's not to say as soon as the sun sets, you just go straight to bed, but you manage the light in your house, or you manage your exposure to non-native blue light, those sort of things, which again is going back to this common sense carnivore thing, which is in my video description. I'll send you the links if you don't mind, Dave, because I think these things are being misrepresented. Struggling with sleep also can be a thing that maybe your body is supposed to do, because there is a thing called biphasic sleep, and there are thousands of references to this in ancient literature, where humans actually did get up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning as a normal thing, and then do jobs or whatever, or protect their property or their territory, and then went back to sleep. So I often say to people that are losing sleep, don't lose any sleep over losing sleep. Learn to understand it. Nighttime or nocturnal urination is a thing. Could be as simple as that. Stop drinking after 6 p.m. I know that makes you sound like an old fart, and I get that. And I can remember, I think it was in Seinfeld, where George, the character George, a young lady said, "Would you like to come up to my room for a coffee?" And he went, "Oh, I can't have coffee late at night." And later he's like, "Oh, that sounds so uncool." But as you get older, that becomes a real thing. Oh, I can't have coffee late at night because it will disturb your sleep. So I think look at
Right.
these things in reality rather than people giving you these emotive words.
Mm. Thanks for your question, Scott. Naomi is asking, can Lugal's iodine be applied topically or only taken orally? Trying to eat seafood more regularly, but if I have to supplement, not sure how to get it in me when it makes water taste so yuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes, many people do that. They have an iodine patches as well. Um, so the biggest issue is evaporation. So if you put it on your skin, and you can't dose it very uh, consistently, so it's a bit inconsistent dosage wise and a bit unreliable, and you've got the evaporation issue. So oral is a bit more precise, it's more measurable, it's going to be absorbed through your digestive system. So yeah, it's better to eat it without
Mm.
shadow or ingest it. Topical uses, it's good for disinfection or minor cuts and antiseptic use and all that sort of stuff. But I think yes, it could be absorbed through the skin, but I think just taking it orally is the gold standard, really.
Mm. Thank you, Naomi. From Tanya, I have lost weight very slowly on carnivore, but always gain fast.
Mm.
If I stray from the carnivore way of eating, I've yo-yo dieted my whole life and have always gained it back. Seem to stall regularly too. I could relate to the gaining back fast. That's the story of my life.
Yes, and we are animals on this planet. We survive because we have the ability to store body fat, which is food for later time when there's no food around. When there's no food available, we eat our body fat. So it is portable food. So it's firstly a good thing. That's why you're here, because your ancestors do it. I'm like that, exactly like that. So my carbs over 2 days gained 6 pounds. So it's not like I don't get what you're saying. I am aware of that, and I know that I will lose it not in 2 days. It will take maybe 10 days, and that makes sense too because we need to tell the body, "Hey, that scarcity of food, forget that. We've got it now. We've got
Mm.
some incoming ribeyes. We've got some eggs and all that sort of stuff, and it will normalise, and you start to lose the weight again." And yes, you'll go into stores because the body's constantly looking at a homeostatic sort of set point where, yeah, happy at this, happy at this. So I would say for me, I'm at my heaviest I've been for a long time because I've eaten 2 days of carbs, which is just amazing, isn't it? But the body just soaks up the water from it, and it just
Mm.
makes the body fat because, it can't be used to make structure and stuff like that. So it's going to be stored as energy.
So on that point about the water, Coach Stephen,
Mhm.
I had heard that when you have 1 gram of carbohydrate, your body stores 4 grams of water. Is that correct, or is that an old
Uh,
wives' tale?
no, it's 1 to 3.
One
And I
to
think,
three.
yeah, I mean, but it's more to do with the molecular matchup. So yeah, one molecule of glucose will have 3 molecules of water.
Ah, okay, got it.
Mm.
Thank you for your question, Tanya. Um, from Maury, I have a struggle with having enough energy and want to see if eating more protein makes a difference. Is it better to spread out protein over 4 meals, at least to start, then get back to two?
Yeah, I mean that's really good thinking. If you have 2 to 3 meals or 4 meals, as you're saying, sorry, question, is it better to spread the protein out over 4 meals? I mean, if you're trying to up your protein and you do 4 meals, certainly if you were weight training, that would be a brilliant thing because you'll elicit mTOR if there's sufficient leucine in there because you want to get to the leucine threshold. If 4 is not beneficial for you, that would be the reason, I reckon, and then you might do better with 3 meals. So I think it's still a trial and error thing, and you're right to then dial back to 2. Um,
Mm,
don't go for the lean protein. Don't deliberately go lean. Just eat what you normally eat and try and make sure that the associated fat is also consumed. So you're not going to have a sort of rabbit starvation type way of eating. Just make sure there's plenty of fats as well. But you should be all right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, okay. We just got a super chat from Mr. Beaumont. Thank you very much. Very kind of you to send a super chat. Happy New Year, guys, from Starmer the Farmer, Harmers, Britain. That's funny.
Starmer, Farmer Harmer. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaumont. And a question from, my eyes are failing me, it's late at night, Nakor. Is carnivore compatible and sustainable for hemochromatosis?
Yeah, if you've got hemochromatosis, for people that don't understand that, that is, a liver or the HFE enzyme. There's a mutation there where iron handling is problematic for some people. This way of eating is about the best way you could do, because we get our iron in a bioavailable form called heme iron. And I don't see many people struggling with this way of eating, even if they've got that gene mutation. Now, I've been doing this job 16 years. So the first 5 of it was actually with people high carb, and I did a decade of private blood testing. And the people that have the most problems are all predominantly plant-based or have a heavy amount of plants in them. Because their iron management is a bit more difficult for them. They have non-heme iron coming in. You need bucket loads of vitamin C, because there's a thing called vitamin C ferroreductase, which is needed to convert non-heme iron to heme. So you're making your iron management very difficult in the first place, because you're not getting the bioavailable form. This way of eating, you still got to be mindful of it. Iron is very misunderstood. You do need copper to work synergistically with iron. So when you've got iron coming into the body, so once it's been converted to heme iron, or you already supply heme iron, to get into the cell, it's pretty easy, because if it's heme, it will get into the cell, and then it will go into what's called the labile pool, which is a pool of iron, and it becomes ferritin. There's a part of ferritin. So ferritin is a storage protein, and it's a huge molecule which can have 4,700 iron molecules in there. So you make all this ferritin, and then to transport it around or get it from one place to another and to be utilized, you need copper, because iron is transported via ferritin. But to get out of the cell, there's hephaestin, which is an enzyme named after Hephaestus, I think, a Greek god of fire and iron. Anyway, and also ceruloplasmin, which is an iron dependent. What's the matter?
You're just reminding me, when you said that word there, you just reminded me of the one of the old guys from Vicar of Dibley, the guy that used to say, yes, yes, no, 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 no,
yes,
no, no, yes.
I sounded like him, did I? Right.
Just when you were trying to pronounce it, just had tones of his voice in there.
Really? Okay. Yes. No. Right. Yes. I know who you mean. Yes. And then ceruloplasmin also needs copper. So people can be making their problems worse because they're avoiding copper, or they're having too much, actually, because they've read about it. So it's all about a nice balance. But yes, carnivore is compatible and sustainable if you have hemochromatosis, but you do need to be mindful and have your bloods taken, but get them interpreted properly. And you need the full gambit of the iron panel. So you need not just serum iron. So you've got a thing called transferrin. So ferrous, ferric, iron, transferrin, transporter. And it has 2 little seats, for want of a better word, for iron. And serum iron is, once there's an iron molecule in there, you've got some serum iron. If there was none in there, you'd have no serum iron, but that doesn't happen. So anyway, and then you've got the transferrin saturation. So using that example, if there's 10 of those little cars, and they've got 2 seats, but everyone's got 1 iron in each seat, then the saturation is 50%. The total iron binding capacity is double that, isn't it? Because, we know that there's 20 seats. So if you get the TIBC, the UIBC, so that's the total iron binding capacity, unbound iron capacity as well, transferring saturation. You could also get serum iron. Then I would definitely try and get your copper levels measured, ferritin levels, and I think you then need them to be interpreted in the right way. If you're worried about inflammation, then get GGT as well. So the liver panel done, AST, ALT, GGT as well. ALP would be really helpful. And you could just manage it, make sure everything's going hunky-dory. I'm sure it will be. Iron deficiency is, more problematic than iron overload.
Thank you for your question, Nakor. I'll just flash this up on screen. That's I know this guy. Coach Coach Stevens just put the link to his group in there. Just while I put that into my side of the chat, could you explain what the group's about, please?
Yeah, I can do. Also, I've noticed someone saying I look tired today. I am very tired. I think 2 days of doing carbs is not good for me. And also my doggy going to the vets after the attack has been very difficult. Staying up with him, making sure he doesn't bite his tail, because he's got bandages on there and he's got stitches. So, it's been difficult. So that's why I'm really passionate about the sleep, because life comes along and it gives you some difficult things to deal with. I think being carnivore makes you more resilient. My dog is raw meat carnivore, and he's so resilient. It's me that's really struggled with all this, and I think 2 days of carbs has been terrible. I felt absolutely awful. I'm so glad I'm not doing that again. But I think it's worth it for the Lumen experiment, and I'll be doing something with Eddie Goki, and I think in 2 weeks where we're going to look at all the data. But anyway, right, my Common Sense Carnivore group is exactly that. It's if you join it, the discussion board is completely free to join, and you can put your comments on there, and like-minded people hopefully will give you some common sense reasons or rationales or tips or tricks and that sort of thing. I've also got loads of things in the classroom where you can study different bits. You can study the thyroid, you can study bloods. So there's a sort of premium level and there's a VIP level, and I do for the premium and VIP, I'm going to do at least one weekly live Q&A, and if it takes off or it's very popular, then obviously I'll do more. But I think we need to stop just thinking that everything is food. It isn't always the food. It can be the situation. It can be stress. It can be, lack of sleep can be brought on by many different things. So I want to get back to basics, really, and eating when you feel hungry, stopping when you feel full, and cutting through all the noise from all the influencers and just saying, these are the facts. This is how the body works. The body does work in a similar way. Like I always say, if I went to Japan and I needed an operation, the surgeon wouldn't open me up and go, how does this one work? We all work in a similar way, but we also do different things. So I could have a problem because I've been smoking too much and drinking too much, or I'm too stressed, or I'm overtraining and all that, compared to the person they saw just now. So yes, we're all very similar and we all work the same way, but we all do different things. And sometimes it's just a really simple thing can be really helpful. One little tip, one little trick. Everyone's doing this new year sort of thing. Oh, it's January the 1st. This is the worst time to do any new thing. Absolutely the worst, because we're in Britain in hibernation mode. We want to be warm. We want to be in bed by 6 o'clock, really, up at, with the lark. So I was training at 5 o'clock this morning, or going, defrosting the car at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's not the best time. Whereas spring, and it's so obvious as soon as you say it, rebirth, renewal, that's the best time to do your New Year's resolutions, but not in the new year. It's better to do it then. But right. I also understand it's January, so it's a new year, let's go for it. So For instance, this is one of the things that's in the common sense group. It talks about building a habit. It's all well and good saying 21 days. All it takes is 21 days to build a habit. Well, that's an influencer saying that, and other influencers pick up on it because that sounds really great. Wow, 3 weeks into January and I've got my new habit. Well, that's not the reality. So Philippa Lally at the UCL actually did a study on it, and the average was 66 days. So that's 3 times as long as what most people push. Some people it was as short as 18 days, so that's pretty close to 21. But for others, it was over 200, and I think, the worst was it took 254 days for a habit to form. So we need to do things that are realistic with the way we live. So I would say when spring is, wherever you are in the world, that's when you should be thinking about any big changes. And so what I'm saying to people is, right now, between now and spring, so March, April time, let's put our house in order as much as possible and do some practical things to make changes. The way you talk to yourself, for instance, is one. So instead of saying today I'm not going to have carbs, because that's a negative way of thinking, it's like saying don't think of pink elephants. It's better to say today I'm going to have lots of fats and proteins. I'm going to make myself feel healthy. So just self-talk. And then also, if you don't exercise much, getting to the gym's difficult, do like a specific thing when you do a specific thing. So every time you brush your teeth, you're going to do 10 squats. So you build a habit that way. Good habits. Clean my teeth, 10 squats. Clean my teeth, 10 squats. So you're going to do 20 squats a day. Or when you boil a kettle, I'm going to do as many push-ups as I can while the kettle is boiling. And it's just common sense stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to get across.
I'm going to try that tonight. I'll be brushing my teeth and doing squats. That's an image that no one wants in their mind on this January 2nd. So, guys, we're on the hour. So remember to check out Coach Stephen's new group, school.com/common-sense-carnivore. And thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you joining us with your chats and questions. And we will see you same time next week. Thank you very much. Cheers, Coach Stephen.
Cheers. Happy New Year.